The 49ers are lined up for what I think is going to be a brilliant move. I'm excited to tell you about the latest news in this area that I think is going to solve a major, major problem for the 49ers. And I think where this goes could be massively beneficial to the 49ers, getting in other guys as well. All of that in this video. If you're looking for daily 49ers content, look no further. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on all the action. But there is no doubt that the defensive line was an issue all year. I had several comments from you guys like, I took one video to talk about the offensive line. You guys don't forget about the defensive line is another way of saying what you guys were saying to me. And I'm not saying the offensive line, the center position, is the most important problem, but it was a key problem this last season. However, most important of problems definitely happened on the defensive line. The 49ers desperately needed a strong line, and we did not have it. And it starts with things like injuries for sure. Like Drake Jackson, before the season even started, he was like my breakout player of the year, who I picked before the season started to be the breakout player of the year. Didn't even get to play. Javon Hargrave, who never amounted to what we expected from him out of Philly, and previously, a couple years before that, out of Pittsburgh. He never amounted to that level of quality for the 49ers in the 2023 season. And then the 2024 season, he got injured, and we just never got a chance to see it. And so there was a disappointment there from those guys, right? The whole interior defensive line had issues. I'm going to get into some of that even more in a minute, but then defensive departures over the last handful of years. DeForest Buckner, Javon Kinlaw, Eric Armstead, Dee Ford, Chase Young, Randy Gregory, lots of guys who they're big-ish names. Some of them are massive names. And then there's one other guy that departed in the last several years that we have to get to. But before we can do that, there's something really interesting that I noticed. I was doing some digging, some searching. You could call it even a little bit of soul searching. And as I was looking through all of the interior defensive line players from the 49ers this season, and I know PFF grades aren't gospel. They're just PFF grades, okay? But I found an interesting little tidbit of information in looking this up. The highest ranked 49er interior defensive lineman was undrafted free agent Evan Anderson. Stoked, of course, for Evan Anderson. He had a great season when given the opportunity. He only had a total of 267 snaps. That's compared to like the highest snap counts this season were somewhere in the 800s. So that gives you a picture a little bit too of like kind of how often he was there and how many games he was involved in. I think 12 games. Okay. Now he's the highest graded 49er at the interior defensive line at a 60.8. Okay. The next highest guy is Javon Hargrave, only 104 total snaps this season. So I wouldn't even count his grade, which was low at 60. Okay, you keep going down, you get to Malik Collins, who conveniently wears number 99 and also happens to be the 99th ranked defensive line, interior defensive lineman. That's crazy. Just think about that for a second, okay? We'll talk about money in a minute, and we'll talk about how much we're paying these guys and how that all shakes out in a second. But his total defensive rank, I know it's just PFF, is 57.9. Malik Collins, you will give him credit. He was on the field for 17 games this season, and he had 715 snaps. So at least you got some solid, he was there, all right? He was present. Best ability is availability. Khalil Davis is your next highest ranked interior defensive lineman, only got 200 snaps. So we've got a lot of guys on this list that just weren't out there. Kevin Givens, 185 snaps. His total defensive rank, by the way, 49. 49 is his defensive rank. Again, and when I mean rank, I mean his PFF grade. I'm sorry, apologize for the word rank. He was ranked 147, which is not great either, to be fair. I didn't get to Jordan Elliott, who was ranked 163. He was there actually quite a bit, played a good portion of the season, 440 snaps over 15 games. And then Kalia Davis, 259 snaps, But again, these guys are all bottom of the barrel in terms of ranking, and not great when you look at the total number of guys out there, and that was out of 200. So the point that I'm trying to make, and I want to get to one other guy in just a second here who left the 49ers, but one of the things that I'm trying to get across here, that I didn't catch it when I was just looking at PFF grades, but when you compare it to the guys around them in their rankings and you see the snap counts, you realize there were a lot of guys playing for the 49ers and the top ranked guys who hardly even played this season. And that's an issue. That's a big problem, and the Niners need to be aware of that. Let's talk about this guy, DJ Jones, because the newest report is that Bleacher Report calls DJ Jones a bargain call, which got me thinking, what do you mean by bargain? What does that even look like financially, and where does he fit in? So let's talk about the value, then we'll get to the bargain. Always got to focus on the value first. So DJ Jones is one of the more intriguing interior defensive linemen. This is what Bleacher Report said, who teams will be able to find on the open market. 6 foot, 305 pounder, has shown a knack for plugging gaps throughout his 8-year NFL career and should continue to be an asset, especially against the run, even after turning 30 this season. Jones took a slight step back during his recent tenure with the Denver Broncos, but still ranked number 2 in run-stop win rate amongst all defensive tackles in 2024, according to ESPN. While he only recorded 1 sack of the season, on the season, marking the first time since 2018 that he failed to notch at least 2, he still occasionally flashed the ability to get into the backfield and hinder opposing quarterbacks, which you guys know, like, that's not, I know that the Niners really appreciate that ability for guys to get after the quarterback. That's why they went after a Javon Hargrave kind of guy. That's not, I don't think that's the biggest problem the Niners had this season. I mean, yes, we did not pressure the quarterback enough, for sure. We gave up, we were 29th in the NFL in terms of points allowed. Like, yes, there was an issue there. We needed to get after the quarterback more. But our run defense prior to this last year was already an issue. And coming into this season, this last season, 2024, we needed an improvement at the run defense level. Anyway, it's not easy to find hefty defensive tackles who can stuff the run for a budget price. Teams will have to overlook some of Jones' negative qualities like missing tackles, which has been a long concern for Jones, and that issued according to or continued to plague him last season. But the good still clearly outweighs the bad when it comes to his contributions. Okay, so how much would the guy cost? How much do we need to expect to spend on DJ Jones, okay? And let's get into the nitty-gritty, okay? So the projected contract per PFF is a 2-year, $9 million AAV, $10 million guaranteed, but $18 million total, okay? So 2 years, $9 million a year. Where would that put DJ Jones compared to other interior defensive linemen's contracts? Well, here you go. These are all of the interior defensive lineman contracts. It's not spot rack. Oh boy. Over the cap? Oh geez. You let me know in the comments. You recognize it because I recognize it, but I can't remember the name of which website it was. Anyway, Javon Hargrave comes in AAV at $21 million. We can forget about total guaranteed for a second because I can guarantee you $40 million ain't it, Javon. But anyway, so 21 AAV. Then you've got Malik Collins is the next highest paid interior defensive lineman for the 49ers at $11.5 per year, okay? So where does he fall? Way below these guys, okay? Because a lot of people believe that the Niners are moving on from Javon Hargrave, okay? And you're just in terms of salary cap, okay? That's why I'm looking at AAV because for me, I'm trying to think of the value in as simple terms possible, right? So if I'm looking at in terms of value for what you're paying on an annual basis for the player versus value for what you'd be paying on an annual basis for another player, you're looking at DJ Jones projecting to be less than half of the AAV of Javon Hargrave. Now you look at the guaranteed money, he's at $40 million guaranteed. PFF projects him to be at $10 million guaranteed, and you're at a quarter of the guaranteed money. Even if PFF's just in the ballpark and they're not even right, this is still from a cost point of view, a massive upgrade. You look at the snap count on Javon Hargrave, and I see a huge opportunity. Again, I don't believe the 49ers should get out of this draft without drafting at least a couple of defensive linemen. We need an edge rusher. We need to be working on getting that talent in, no doubt. It's great that Evan Anderson was awesome. It's great that Sam Okuanu, although not technically rated as an interior defensive lineman, whatever, who cares? It's great that he was awesome. There's nothing wrong with having these other guys in there that are dogs and they can go in there and do a job. We need to start focusing on young talent that can be around for a really, really long time. And the Niners were really good at that. I just told you a whole list of guys. Half of those guys were drafted by the 49ers. And so we need to find a way to draft more defensive linemen. That's in the DNA, and we didn't do it last year, and we need to do it. Absolutely. So I believe we need to draft. However, I would also say that this year has to be seen from a defensive line point of view as a little bit of a transition year. You're not going to get 2 plug-and-play actual starting defensive tackles in the draft alone. I think you're going to have to use some of your draft capital on edge. I think you're going to have to use your draft capital, some of it on a defensive tackle, but you also have draft capital needed for some offensive linemen, some young bucks to get in there. So I don't think the 49ers are coming out of the draft with multiple plug-and-play guys. So you need to go out there, need to go find, I wouldn't even call it splash some cash. I mean, yes, it's a lot of money, but compared to all of the other guys out there, this is a reasonable get to bring back DJ Jones, even if you have to sweeten the deal for him to make it a little bit harder for him to stay in Denver. I live in Denver. A lot of folks here believe he wants to come back. I saw 49ers fans when he tweeted at Robert Saleh's being signed, and he said, how did he phrase it? Good for him. And I saw 49ers fans saying, oh, he's coming back. That doesn't sound like going back to me. So I think you've got to make the deal happen. I think the 49ers need to go out there and contact him and make it worth his while. It's also worth noting, while we're on the topic, that DJ Jones, his best time as a 49er actually wasn't with Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh, of course, saw him from a baby bird all the way up to getting his wings and all that good stuff. But where he really had his best season right before he left was with DeMeco Ryans. That was when he had his absolute star-studded season. That's the stuff you go back and think about, makes you remember how good he was. You're thinking about the DeMeco Ryans 2021 season, I think it would be. So that's where you're coming from. But all of that to say, should the 49ers go out there and do that? Let me know in the comments what you think. If it's worth going out there to pick up DJ Jones, to splash a little cash at him, give him a little guaranteed money, make him feel all good about himself, and get him in there and with Robert Saleh and find his old self, find that quality, get it back. I think we need more bodies for sure, and I think he would be a great one to pick up. That's just my take. Want to quickly throw out a couple of comments, shout outs, starting with getting an upgrade at center is important. This is from yesterday's video, but I think getting a great nose tackle is more important as Javon Hargrave is expected to be gone next season from the Niners. I said, I don't disagree. I would love an old school monster nose tackle. If we stay in a wide 9, I would be open to some large athletic DTs that can get after the quarterback too, but we have to draft a run stuffing behemoth to shore up those gaps. I still believe that. I don't think you're getting a run stuffing behemoth in DJ Jones. I think you're getting value, but I don't think that you're getting that, that kind of guy. We need to kind of look for those guys. We need them in there. One other comment from Leroy saying, the center is the second most important player on the offense. He touches the ball almost every play. Even with Jake Brendel's contract, he's a liability to the offense. Great point, Leroy. Thanks for that. Like a hole in your roof, if you don't repair it, your whole home investments are spoiled. It is important that the 49ers offense is strong enough to keep the defense on the sidelines by limiting the exposure to possible injuries with both. Will both keep the speed and stay aggressive against offenses. That's a great shout. Absolutely love that point. Go get the protection on offense. And basically, to summarize, Leroy, what I think you're trying to say here is put the investment in the offensive line, because the better the offense continues to play, the better the offense can stay on the field, all of that, okay? And, I mentioned Jake Brendel's 10 10, I think it was 10 penalties last year, which was like the very, very bottom of the barrel. Really, really bad. You need the 49ers offensive line to be stout in order to make sure that your defensive line is able to stay healthy and have full energy and be out there and be killing it. So totally get that. Totally all great points. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Leroy. Appreciate you guys for commenting and appreciate all of you for watching this video and hope that you will join them in the comments. And I hope you guys have a fantastic evening.